Outnumbered every time. OT, baby. The Gov is in the house.
Yes, I've had a great time with you guys. And, you know, during the break, we were talking about the whole idea of the display of the military. I think the people in the military, this is what we're talking about, need the opportunity to say, it's like bring your country to work day. It's let the rest of the nation come and see, what do these guys do? Because, I mean, we fund them, but, I mean, they make huge sacrifices. They also do amazing work. Yeah. I mean, the things that they have to prepare for, what they are capable of doing, I think it's a salute in being able to appreciate that a little bit.
I completely agree with you. I think you and I have spent so much time on military bases because of our fathers, but I don't know that you assume that the rest of the country has, and that's certainly not the case.
They have not.
But I love that idea. I do. You know, I can't imagine what that parade looks like, though. It does seem like it doesn't.
It doesn't need to have the president standing there like in a review box as if it's all about him. It needs to be about the military.
It can't look like North Korea.
That's right.
Yeah. No, but I think it would be lovely. I mean, you can see military coming down and people just really being moved by it. I mean, it would be really lovely. Can we move on to the Nancy Pelosi video?
So hold on 1 second. I would like to say this though, just about a potential parade day that President Trump says he would do. It would be interesting if it were less of a parade and more of that climbing aboard, like when you visit a warship like the Intrepid here in New York City. You can climb aboard, kick the tires. But they also have these booths where you can get storytelling from our soldiers. And I love that. I loved hearing from the women in the Navy. Women serving in the military and how their roles have expanded. And it's just a little nugget of storytelling along the way. Can you imagine? And take that to different cities around the country.
I suggest going to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and witness a firepower demonstration. They do them regularly.
You like that?
It's awesome.
Can I tell them how well you can shoot?
Not what they shoot. Totally different. Totally different.
Clay things. Anyway, you want to talk about Nancy Pelosi?
Well, I just thought that video was really something.
Also, your reaction to it, I could not stop. We all saw Melissa. She was like taken aback after she finished watching the video and reading it.
Yeah. I mean, it is uncomfortable to watch her just sort of lose control, and her hand always kind of does.
Well, she had the microphone, and I don't know if we can show it again here online, but she had the microphone in her hand, Nancy Pelosi. And I wasn't quite sure what she was trying to tuck it away. I mean, she was leaving a venue that she set up.
I can't say that I agree, though, with these people getting up in her face and shouting her down either. I don't think that that's right either.
But she's also encouraged this sort of behavior, and the Democratic Party has encouraged this sort of. I mean, she attended, I think it was in New York, with Governor Cuomo. She attended a resistance rally. So, I mean, she has
encouraged.
She said, yes, go on and do this sort of resistance movement, this mob mentality. And so when she gets it, you know, I don't really feel
it's amazing to me, though, with her experience, like Governor Huckabee says, he's got tools in his toolbox he can use when that situation, if that situation comes up. It's amazing to me she didn't have more experience.
But she's from San Francisco. I don't think she's used to that.
A Birkin bag, probably.
I mean, her crowd is, you know, the West Coast San Francisco crowd. She's used to a tongue bath every time she goes into one of these events. I think it's unusual for her.
Those of us with dogs and cats, that is a very real visual.
But you're right, because she went out there and probably was anticipating this really warm reception, that she was going to be this hero to them, leading the charge on DACA. And I think you could even see in the video that she was visibly taken aback by the reaction as well, because I certainly don't think she was anticipating
this
to
Sandra's
by any
point,
means.
That was because how close they were.
Yeah. Which that would be
it's
scary.
Different when an angry mob gets close.
I was just wondering where security was on that.
Very much.
They were
not anticipating that they probably weren't anticipating that they would be needed that way, right? Hashtag she resisted.
Well, and I know too, having worked on campaigns, you know, it's a different reaction too for her when you know that you have all these cameras on you as well, watching how you respond to it as well. So that certainly adds a whole different element in her reaction, because I know I've worked where, you know, I've had reporters hound me at a time where I had a reporter put his foot in the doorway of the governor, the Senate candidate I was working for, so he couldn't get out. We couldn't get him to leave, and now you've got all these cameras on you. So how are you going to respond? You can't act aggressively. You can't say anything inappropriately, because then that becomes news. So I think she was very much sort of obviously conscientious of the fact too that she was being filmed through this whole ordeal as well.
That's scary stuff too, because you know I think of that baseball game with Scalise and the others who were shot. Like, we're at a place in this country where you cannot afford to underestimate anybody's moment of stupidity or violence.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is. And so if you're like, oh, I don't want to be caught on camera trying to defend myself, yeah, I think we're going to have to kind of move forward on that. Like, catch me giving you a tongue lashing, because you got to get out the way.
Well, and I kept verbally telling him, I'm like, dude, you were on the press release. You know where we're going next. There's immediate availability there. You can ask her. You're clearly trying to make a spectacle out of this. And so I just kept saying that very loudly, so they were picking up that. But I mean, you know, you're left in a situation where there's not a whole heck of a lot that you can do in response. But it is
Governor,
what it is.
do you think DACA and what the plan is on the table, the deal that the president made with, and I'm kind of looking down here because Wade Payne says DACA has to go, but is it amnesty overall at the end of the day?
I don't think so. Look, I believe we should do DACA. I do. And I know that kind of takes me out of a lot of Republicans. But here's why. You don't punish a child for something the parents did. And that's essentially what we're asking. Should we say to a child who came here when he was 4 years old, was totally educated in American schools, speaks English, may not speak a word of any other language, that, hey, you know what? You're being punished for something that you had no control over. Let's respect the fact that the federal government is largely to blame for having totally uncontrolled borders for all these years and making the process of legal immigration so complicated, so cumbersome, and so expensive that a lot of people who were desperate to feed their families decided to take the risk of being illegal versus trying to do things. Now, I know I'm going to get 1,000 emails, people saying, do you not understand what illegal means? I totally get it, but I also get that we've got a problem, but the way to fix it is not to punish some people who did nothing to be in trouble.
But Governor, so my question to you, and I wonder what happens with this, because we've seen, even just with President Trump and some of the language that he's used, we've seen a significant drop in illegality at the border. I think simply just because he said that we are a nation of laws, we are going to follow our laws, sending a different message than some of the things we've seen under President Obama. So my question is, okay, so if we move forward with DACA and you know, we're talking about something anywhere from, 600,000 to 800,000 individuals. I mean, what message does that then send to illegal immigrants who want to try to come over to the United States? So that's my concern, is we've seen, President Trump.
Although it's back up now. In the last month's statistics, the border crossings were back up 20%. The other question, just to pile on you here, is that the response that I always see online is sort of well, does that then make that person an anchor baby? Does that then also clear the parent who brought them here? If we answered that question.
I don't think it does. And I think we also have to step back and say, if you are that child, you need to be working toward a legal framework of being here. We can't just say carte blanche. That's amnesty. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about saying, now that you're here, maybe it's the parents pay a fine. There's got to be some type of reconciliation with the brokenness of the law. But the bigger question, and by the way, the average DACA person is 23 years old, so we're not talking about little kids.
Well, and I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, so when you hear proponents of some form of legalization or amnesty or whatever it might be say, well, that's not a little kid anymore. So, but it's the only country they've ever known. I'm not quite sure where we stand here, because some of them are even older than that.
Well, some of them are 36. They're up to 36 years old. So, I mean, it goes really from 18 to 36, and that's the age frame. But we do have children who were brought here when they were 4. The bigger question is, when they've gone to our schools, by law, by the way, we made them go to school because they didn't get to be truants. So they had to go to our school. We had a case in my state when I was governor, kid who was the valedictorian of one of the largest high schools in the state. And so here's the question. Should he be able to go to college?
Wow.
Because I'm thinking, I'd rather him go to college, become a doctor, and pay the taxes a doctor pays than I had to pick tomatoes in Hermitage, Arkansas during tomato season and pay taxes on what he would make there.
How important do you think it is? Because this is probably the opportunity for President Trump, if he is very sincere or is really sincere about the wall and building the wall, to try to build that, pun intended, into some sort of DACA deal. So from your perspective, how important is it for him to utilize this time for that?
I think it's critically important for 2 things. One, from the substantive stack of having the wall and having control of the border. That's critical. Secondly, it also says to his base he's going to keep his promise. Yes, he's giving something away, but he's getting what he wanted and what was important to him, and that's critical.
You know what we got? We got the governor. Thanks for being here.
Oh, what a pleasure. Always
we'll see you tomorrow.
It's always great. Thank you.